Hello and welcome everybody to the Just in Time Cafe's webinar. I'm Elizabeth Swan, co-founder of the Just in Time Cafe. I'll be your moderator today, and today's webinar is titled Activate the Leader Within, Master Your Influence. Our guest host today is Sonia Singh. Let me tell you a little bit about Sonia. She's the CEO of Sonia Singh International LLC, a leadership, coaching, and training company. She's managing partner of the consulting firm M+, an adjunct professor at the University of San Diego, and a leadership coach in the executive leadership program at the University of California, Davis. In the past 2 decades, Sonia has trained and coached over 2,000 emerging and experienced leaders in developing key competencies. Many of Sonia's clients have gone on to become successful CEOs, VPs, directors, and managers and entrepreneurs. She previously served as executive director of business transformation, culture leader, and Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, Master Black Belt at many healthcare and Fortune 100 companies. Now I could do a better welcoming of Sonia.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. Thank you so much.
I've got a few housekeeping notes. I'm just gonna give the crowd a little bit of instruction. You guys can ask questions anytime by entering them into the chat area. I'm gonna monitor this for Sonia. There's also a question area. We'll be using the chat area throughout the webinar, so we welcome your participation. Sonia's got questions for you. She's gonna raise those throughout her presentation. Remember to reply to everyone, not just panelists and attendees, when you pose a question or a comment in the chat, so all participants can see it. Videos of our webinars in this interactive session are available for free. We post them regularly on the Just in Time Cafe website, usually on the Monday after a webinar. They're at jitcafe.com. That's JITCAFE.com. Simply check the webinar page for all past webinars. So once you're registered for webinar, you get an email saying it's posted. So let's head over to you, Sonia.
All right, thank you. And welcome everyone to Activate the Leader Within, Master Your Influence. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so here are our objectives for this training. So by the end of this hour, you're going to understand the connection between leadership and influence. You're going to learn the 3 elements of influence. We're going to talk about the 4 different types of listening, because we know all listening is not equal. So what are the 4 different levels of listening? And then how can you understand the 6 human needs and how they impact our decisions and behavior? And then finally, make sure you stay until the end and make sure you participate in all of our discussions, because we are going to pick one lucky winner at the end to receive free coaching. And I'd also like to share some really exciting news with you. So make sure you stay until the end. All right, so I'm not going to go too much into who I am because Elizabeth did such a nice job of introducing me, but I'd like to just share with you what my why is, why I'm doing what I do, why I'm here right now teaching this topic to you. So my story, so early in my career, I was told by very well-meaning professors, mentors, teachers, that leadership is something that can't be taught. You're either born a leader or you're not. And there were all these different myths that were out there that I was believing, right? That you have to have a certain type of personality. You have to look a certain way. You have to have a certain type of personality, like, you have to be charismatic or gregarious. You have to be extroverted. I believed all these different things. And they were all myths. And I discovered that over time. I didn't know that at the time. I believed all of these things, because I was someone who was very reserved. I was introverted. Being a woman of color, being a first-generation immigrant, I had all these different limiting beliefs, right, that were holding me back. And what I discovered over time was that all of these beliefs that I held I also had the same level of power to change those beliefs. And so when I started doing that and started learning that and discovering that, hey, there's certain skills that I can learn, I can develop, even though I may not be an extrovert, I can still learn how to speak confidently in front of people. I can still learn how to influence people. And so these were all skills that I developed over time. And now I am dedicated to teaching these skills to other people, especially to people who feel like they don't have a lot of authority, or they feel like they don't have enough influence to make decisions or to influence the people that they work with. You absolutely can. And so these are the things that I want to teach you. I want to motivate you and inspire you to know that these are all skills, just like any technical skills. These are skills that you can learn. All right, enough about that. So let's get right into it. All right, so the first thing is, let's talk about what determines a leader, right? And I'd like you to put in the chat box, what are some of the traits that you believe are important for a leader to have? So go ahead and add that in, and I'd love to see what you think. Now, these could be personality traits. These could be just different things, skills that you see. What are the things that are really important in your mind for a leader to demonstrate? All right, I see integrity, listening skills, respect, listening again, empathy, compassion, willing to get into the trenches, honesty, ability to inspire and motivate, empathy again, self-reflection, follow through, ability to lead from behind, supportive, vision, self-awareness, motivation, decisive, intellect, good listener, motivator. So we're seeing some themes here, right? There's a lot of motivation, inspiration. There's a lot of empathy, listening, authenticity. This is fantastic. Now, here's the thing. Nowhere in there did I hear authority. Nowhere in here did I hear anyone say you have to have a certain title to be a leader, that you have to have a certain level of authority to be a leader. All of the things that you just mentioned are all interpersonal skills. They're all related to your level of influence, your ability to collaborate with people, to inspire people, to motivate people. It's not about authority. Although authority can definitely give you a platform to practice your leadership, it's truly about those interpersonal skills that we're going to get into today. All right, so why are we here? So here are some of the some things that you want to think about. First of all, we know from there was a study that was done by several different universities, including Harvard, and they looked at what determines our success. And the study found that 85% of our success is related to our interpersonal skills, while only 15% of our success is attributed to technical skills. While technical skills are very important, although IQ and intellect are very, very important, they're only one small piece of the puzzle. There's even greater weight in our ability to effectively connect with people, communicate, all the different interpersonal skills that are important to elevating our influence. And here's the other thing to keep in mind. With our advancing technology, the whole fact that we're online more now than ever before, we're not working in person as much as we were before, right? We're online most of the time. We're in these Zoom meetings where there's so much technology, there's so many distractions. With all of these advancing technologies, which are great for efficiency, but guess what? The need for interpersonal skills are growing. They're more in demand today than ever before. So that's actually good news. It's good news for anyone who wants to develop these skills. And for anyone who is interested in learning and growing their ability to build stronger relationships, their desire to make a greater impact. And then finally, by learning these skills, you'll not only be able to make a greater impact, but you'll also have greater fulfillment. Now think about, you might already have the title, you might already have the salary or all the accolades, the certifications and education, you have all of those things, but you still may not feel fulfilled, right? So all of these things are connected, right? So when you're building strong relationships, when you're making an impact, when you're having your voice heard, you're going to be more fulfilled. These are all connected. All right, so what are some of those interpersonal skills that are so important to our success? There are things like, first of all, communication, the way that we verbally communicate, the way that we, even our nonverbal communication is super important. What's your body language telling people about you? What do people perceive about you when you're speaking in front of a group, when you're sitting in a meeting, whether it's over Zoom or in a conference room? Your level of emotional intelligence, your ability to empathize with people, your ability to connect with people and understand their perspective, your ability to resolve conflict and collaborate with people, your ability to inspire people and to persuade them, right? These are all components of influence. These are all different skills that are needed for you to build influence. All right, so what exactly is influence? So influence is your ability to impact the way someone thinks or the way that someone behaves. And there are many different reasons that someone may want to influence someone. For this particular topic, we're really talking about positive influence. We're talking about all the things that you want to do out in the world, making a positive impact on people, on the company, on your business. You want to make a positive impact, but you have to have a certain level of influence if you want to make a greater impact. So that's why we're here. And this is exactly what we're going to be talking about, is how do you develop these interpersonal skills so that you can build your influence and make the level of impact that you want to make. Now, there are 3 key elements that I'd like you to think about. So go ahead and take notes on this because these are really important. 3 elements to influence. The first one is credibility. Who are you? Who is the person that is delivering the message? So if you have a really important message, maybe you're trying to share an idea or a solution, people are asking, who is delivering that message? Do you have credibility? Number 2, are you tapping into people's emotions? How are you delivering that message? Number 3 is logic. So what's the message? And do you have data or facts to support this message or this idea? So if you look at this in a pyramid, at the top we have credibility, right? So credibility is, how much do I trust you? What's your personal brand telling us about you? How much confidence are we seeing in you when you're delivering your message? And what the question that people are asking are, do I trust you? Do you have the credibility? The second thing is emotions. Now, emotions are very important. So if you're trying to deliver a message, ask yourself, how are you tapping into the emotions of people when you're delivering this message? Do you have the ability to inspire action, inspire a change in thought? And so the question people are asking here is, why should I care? Tell me why I should really care about this topic or this message that you're sharing. And the third one is logic. So people are asking, do I believe you? Is there evidence to support what you're sharing with me, this idea or this solution that you have? All right, so I'm going to stop for a moment and ask you all, which out of these 3 do you believe is the most important element to building influence or to having influence?
They're
And Elizabeth,
thinking.
yeah. So as people go share, Elizabeth, if you could just let us know what people are saying.
Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of credibility. Actually, it's a huge mix. A lot of credibility, emotions, credibility, do I trust you? Credibility, emotions, logic, credibility, emotions, credibility. So I'm seeing a predominance of credibility.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. Well, here's the thing. The truth is that most of us end up focusing more on logic. We end up using facts, we end up using data to support our idea, right? So we have a new solution that we want to implement. We start sharing data. We start sharing facts. Look at the research I've done. Look at the data that we have to support that this is the best idea for us to implement. And the truth is that is, although it's important, it's the least effective way to influence someone's decisions. we know this, we've seen this over and over again, especially I think many of you are process improvement practitioners. We know you might have this fantastic idea and someone will still not follow through on it, right? Why can't they see? The evidence is there. We can see the data. It's because we're not tapping into the emotions. So yes, credibility is also very, very important, but even more so is emotions. So when you have the credibility, when you have the data, right, but you're not tapping into emotions, you're missing out on influencing people. So emotions, this is the one area that I'd like you to walk away with is, I want you to ask yourself, how can I tap into the emotions of people? Because this is what drives majority of our decisions. Although we'd like to think that our logic derives our decisions, majority of the time, it's our emotions that are actually driving our decisions. And so when you're thinking about an idea, right? So if there's something that you want people to do, then think about how are you tapping into their emotions to get them excited maybe, or to see the picture of pleasure or the picture of the future, the vision. If you're trying to dissuade someone from doing something, how are you tapping into the emotions of pain to describe this future of, hey, if you go down this path, this is what's going to happen. How are you tapping into the emotions to elicit a certain response? All right. So here's a quote that I love. I love Maya Angelou, and I love this quote that she shared. And I'm sure that most of you have seen this before, but she talks about how she's learned how that, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Now, this is a huge, huge part of influence, the way that you make someone feel. So it's not just about influencing their decisions, but it's also about leaving a lasting mark in their memory. You want to be remembered, right? You want people to remember who you are. If you want to hold that level of influence where you have the credibility, you want to be visible, you want people to be remembering you. And the best way to do that is by eliciting certain emotions. How do you make people feel when you're interacting with them? When, I'm sure all of you have thought about, a certain leader who's really impacted you because they've made you feel a certain way, right? So this is a topic that is so important, and we don't think about it often enough in business, right? We think about emotions, right? That's something that we should never be including in our topics at work. But the truth is that emotions drive majority of our decisions. And so when we don't talk about it, when we don't include it, then we actually are avoiding. We're actually avoiding it, and it's still there. It's still driving our decisions, but we're just not learning how to harness it to effectively help people move forward. All right, so we're going to do an exercise. What I'd like you all to do is think about one person who's had a positive influence on who you are today. Okay, want you to think about that person. Go ahead and think about them. Have them, in your head. Go ahead and visualize them. This could be a mentor. This could be a parent. Maybe it was a teacher. Maybe it was a friend. But I want you to think about who that person was. All right. Does everyone have someone in mind? All right. What I'd like you to do is, in the chat box, I'd like you to let us know, how did they make you feel? This particular person who had a big influence on your life, how did they make you feel?
I am seeing valued, accepted, appreciated, understood, confident, supported, loved, and accepted, empowered, safe, more empowered, valued, peaceful, courageous, respected and valued and appreciated, empowered and inspired, capable. I can do anything I put my mind to. Loved, heard, not wrong. Supported, loved and valued, empowered. These are, you're getting a lot of themes in here.
Amazing. Amazing. Yes.
Another nice one. They showed me a vision of who I could be as an adult.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow. Talk about eliciting emotions, right? They made you feel a certain way. They inspired you. They connected with you. They made you feel safe. These are all the things that we have the ability to do. We have the ability to have this level of impact on the people that we work with, the people that we interact with in our personal lives. And so what I'd like you to think about is, so this is all fantastic. Now, this person who's had this level of impact on you, they were a leader in your life. They may not have had that title, right? That executive title of, whatever, CEO of a company, but they were someone who had a big impact in your life. And essentially, isn't that what a leader does? They have a big impact in the way that they inspire people to take action, they help people see possibility, they help people feel safe and accepted, they help people propel themselves forward, right? So what I'd like you to all think about, whether you have the formal authority or not, that doesn't matter. Today, what I'm asking you to do is really think about how you can show up as a leader. And what I'd like you to really think about here is, whose list will you be on? Whether it's 6 months from now or 10 years from now, whose list are you going to be on? Right? So if I ask this question again, 5 years, 10 years from now, whose list are you going to be on? Now, I get asked this question all the time, well, I don't have the title yet, or I'm trying to become a manager. It doesn't matter. It's about showing up as a leader now before you have that title. Or maybe you'll never have that title, but you can still show up as a leader. So what I'd like you to think about is, how can you be the role model that you needed before and the role model that you still need today? All right, so we talked about why this topic is important, why it's so important for you to build influence. We even talked about the different elements of influence, but how? How do we actually build this level of influence? So I'm going to teach you a couple different strategies. Now, we have limited time today, so I'll only be able to share a couple different strategies. But if you'd like to go deeper into any of these topics, I have a program that I'm going to be launching at the end of this month that I invite you all to join. But today, I'm just going to share with you a couple different strategies that I think work really well in helping you build influence. The first one is building trust and connection. Now, without having trust and connection, you cannot influence anyone, right? So even people in a position of authority, they might tell you what you need to do, and you might even go do it, right? But have they really influenced how you think? Have they really influenced how you're going to behave in the future? You might do it that one time, but for how long, right? And we've all had leaders where they've just commanded that you go do something, and you might do it for the short term, but eventually, that's gonna come back to bite them, right? So you really want to think about, how much trust are you building with people? And so when you're influencing people's decisions, before you do that, before you start a project, before you start going down and working on a project or even on a goal, have you established trust with your team? Have you established trust with the people that you're working with? Now, this is especially important if you're managing a team or if you're trying to drive towards a certain outcome. So a lot of leaders will jump straight to the goal and they start working on the project, right? It's like, okay, we have this goal, we have this outcome that we need to get to. Let's just get straight into it. And they haven't done a very good job of building rapport, especially if they don't know that team or that team doesn't know them very well. So it's super important to build that trust, to make people feel safe, make them feel like, what? This is a safe environment where they can try things, where they can learn, where they can fail, and they'll still be supported, where they will be encouraged, they'll be inspired. So these are all things that need to be developed early on. Okay? And this has to be there before you move forward and try to influence anyone. So trust and connection. All right, so how do you build trust and connection? So I'm going to teach you a couple of different ways to do that. All right, the first thing is, well, first of all, there's another quote that I heard that I really liked, and I'm sure you've heard of it. People don't care what you know until they know how much you care. So people genuinely want to know, do you care about me? Are you relatable? And do I feel safe with you? All right, so how can you make people feel safe? How can you make people feel like they matter, that you care? And how can you be more relatable? Well, the very first one which sounds very simple, but it's very hard to do, is to listen, to understand them. That doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to agree with them, but you want to listen to understand their perspective. So listening to understand and not to respond is the first one. The second one is by sharing stories. So oftentimes we share a lot of data, right? We data dump. It doesn't mean that you don't share data. Of course, share data, but add on to that a story of how this idea is going to impact people, or share an idea of how this inspired you and why you came up with this idea. You want to elicit certain emotions by sharing stories, right? So there's so many different stories out there. It could be your own story. It could be someone else's. It could be something that you saw on TV that sparked an idea. Sharing a story will help people elicit certain emotions, and those emotions will then trigger certain neurochemicals in their brain that will help them remember you, help them remember that idea, and help them really connect and resonate with you. The third one is by being vulnerable and by being genuine. Right? So someone had said authenticity was one trait that they found in a really inspiring leader. Yes, authenticity is very important. If you want to gain respect or gain trust from people, you have to first earn it by giving trust, trusting people, by being honest with them, by being transparent. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to share personal information about yourself. Of course, you don't necessarily need to do that unless it makes sense for you. But what you want to do is be completely transparent and vulnerable about what you know and what you don't know. Right? We've all seen those leaders, or those managers, I should say, that act like they know everything. They act like they know everything. And the truth is that no one knows everything. And so being open about what you know and what you don't know, and you can be very honest about it and very humble about it and say, you know what, I know this, but I don't know much about XYZ, but I will be there with you to help you figure it out. We will work through this together. We'll figure it out together. That's being vulnerable. It's by showing, you know what, these are my cards. I'm sharing with you what I do know and what I don't know. But I'm also being very genuine about the fact that I will be in the trenches with you. I will help you figure this out. But I don't know all the answers. That takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. And it's a sign of true leadership. Genuine curiosity, humility, and openness, these are the keys. These are the keys to building trust and connection with people. Our egos get in the way too often. We all have egos, and there's a purpose. There's a purpose for our ego. But if you can take your ego and just put it to the side for a moment and truly just show up genuine, open to understanding people, be open to learning and not knowing all the answers, really incredible things will happen. All right, so let's go into the different types of listening. Now, you might be wondering or thinking, listening is that one thing that, we all know how to do, right? Listening is easy. We all know we should be doing it. But the truth is that most of us are pretty horrible at listening. Listening, there's so many different types of listening, first of all. So let's talk about what those different types are. And then I'd like you to think about which level do you tend to operate at? And then which level do you want to get to? All right, so the first type of listening is non-listening, where you're really not paying attention. You're not paying attention. You have very little interest. Someone's telling you something, but you're really not listening to them, right? The next one is where I think a lot of people fall into. It's called passive listening, where you're kind of listening, but you're also multitasking. Maybe you're a parent and you're doing something, your kid's telling you something that happened at school, but you're really not paying attention. Or maybe you're sitting in a Zoom meeting and you're also working on some project while you're sitting in this conference call. You're not really paying attention. You're on your phone, you're checking email while you're also sitting in a meeting. So you might get in maybe 20%, but you're not really there. You're not fully present. The other one, now this is the one where I think a lot of people, this is a trap I think that a lot of people fall into. listening, but with an agenda, right? You're listening and you think you're doing the right thing. Well, I'm listening, I'm paying attention. But you're listening to respond. You're waiting for that person to be done so you could jump in with your idea, your story, right? And so you're trying to jump in and maybe they're telling you something that they disagree with, and you want to jump right in with, well, but I think this, and let me give you more data, and let me tell you why I'm right. This is where I think a lot of people fall into this trap of listening, but with an agenda. The highest level of listening is called active listening. And this is when your only intention to listen is to understand their perspective. And you're going in with no agenda, no agenda for a certain outcome. You're not trying to convince them. You're not trying to get them to agree with you. You're truly listening because you want to understand, why do they think this way? I wonder what's going on. I wonder what their story is. And so you're really curious. And you ask these open-ended, genuine questions to learn about this person, to learn about their perspective. But the thing is, you have to set your ego aside if you want to get to this active listening level. You have to be courageous enough to say, you know what? I may not know everything. There may be something here that this person shares that may change my mind. And so you have to be open to whatever this person is going to share with you, and your only intention should be to understand their perspective. Now, I didn't say agree with them. You still may not agree with them, and that's okay. See, most disagreements don't happen because or I should say, most arguments don't happen because we disagree with someone. Arguments happen when we don't feel understood. Disagreements are completely healthy, but arguments happen when we're trying to tell someone something, we're trying to tell our story or our perspective, and we don't feel understood. So the best gift that you can give someone is to truly listen to them and try to understand their perspective. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next thing. So listening is very important to building rapport, building trust. And you know, as you move up this ladder, as you move up the pyramid of listening, your presence is also going to be magnified, right? Your executive presence is really going to show up, and your confidence is going to exude. People are going to remember you. They're going to engage with you because you're actively listening. You're actively trying to understand them. You're empathizing with them. And this is going to shift how people perceive you and the way that they interact with you. All right, let's move on to the next thing. So I mentioned early on that emotions drive majority of our decisions, right? And a lot of those emotions are elicited by our needs. So we all, as humans, we have these 6 needs. So after all of our basic, physiological needs are met, there are 6 needs that every human being on earth, every human being has these 6 needs. But the thing is that we all prioritize them differently. And our top 2 needs will drive all of our decisions. So think about someone who may make the same bad decision over and over again, right? They keep doing that thing that is so bad for them. Why do they do that? Because they're constantly trying to meet their top 2 needs, and they're not successful at it, or maybe they're meeting them in a very unhealthy way. So if you can understand what people's top 2 needs are, then you can get inside their heads. You can really understand what's driving their behavior, understand what they need, and you can be the person to help them meet those needs. This is very powerful. This is very powerful because if you can understand why people do what they do, then you can help them see a different way. And now you're using their language. You're not using your own language and trying to get them to convince them to do something or to think something that you want them to think. You're actually trying to help them meet their needs by showing them maybe a different perspective. All right, so let's get into those 6 needs. All right, so the first need is the need for certainty. This is the need for stability, the need to know what's going to happen, right? Whether it's good or bad, people have this need to just know what's going to happen next. It's the need for security and the need for feeling safe, feeling predictable, feeling stable. And there are some people whose top need is certainty. And you may know this because they hate change. Even when it's really great change, they fight it. And their first response is, nope, I'm going to say no. Don't change anything. I want to eat the same thing for lunch every day. I want to go to bed at the same time every day. I'm not going to do anything to change my routine because I need certainty. And so instead of trying to change that person by saying, no, this change is good for you, you need to, take on this change, help them meet their need for certainty by building that in, making them feel safe, helping them see that, okay, here's an idea. I'm presenting this idea to you. You don't have to change overnight, but it's something for you to think about. Give them time to process it. Give them time to ask questions and feel comfortable with it. Give them some space to understand and figure out how they can take this and make themselves feel safe. And so you can actually help them feel safe by creating that environment. The next one is the need for variety. This is the need for change. So this is the opposite of certainty. We also get bored, right? So when things are the same all the time, we get bored. So it's this need for stimulation, the need for excitement and challenge in our lives. And there are some people who have a very high need for variety, right? These are the people that get bored so easily. They want stimulating conversations. They usually are the ones that are out doing adventurous things and living life, on the edge, and they're constantly going out and doing all these amazing adventures. And this shows up in work when you're sharing an idea with them and you're losing their interest. They are not interested because there's nothing exciting for them to see there. There's nothing there that's challenging them. So you can help them meet that need by sharing with them how this change or this idea is actually really exciting. How is this going to get them inspired? How can this be seen as a positive challenge? How can you make this change fun? Because that's going to help them meet their need for variety. The next one is the need for significance. This is our need for feeling valued. This is our need to feel important and significant, to truly know that you matter. And there are people who have this as their top need. And this is their driving force. And so they do all the things that they do because they want to meet their need for significance. And how you can help them is by recognizing them, by thanking them in public, in private. It's not just about being, thanking them in a generic way. But it's about being very specific about what did they do to add value to the organization, to the project, or whatever it is else that they're doing. How are they adding value? How are they contributing? And by showing them how they're adding value, you're making them feel significant. You're giving or allowing them to meet that need for significance. And, there's no judgment here. So it doesn't really matter. It's not our place to judge anyone for what their top needs are. There is no one that's better than the other. It is what it is. And we just have to understand people and accept that this is where they are. These are their top needs. And I can use this to help them meet their needs. I can use this information to influence their decisions so that they're meeting their needs, but we're also maybe driving towards a common goal. The next one is the need for connection and love. This is our need for bonding with other people. This is our need for feeling a sense of community, feeling a sense of belonging. And the way that this shows up at work is, there are certain people that connection is their top need. And before getting right into business, they want to talk about family. They want to talk about, what they did over the weekend. They want to talk about their pets. They want to bond with people. They want to be friends with people. They want to connect. It's not just about the work. It's also about the relationships. And so how this shows up at work is, so if you know someone's top need is connection, then you can build a sense of community within your team. You can do some team building, do some things where you're actively asking and participating with your team on talking about what's going on in their lives, what are some common interests, what are some things that we can all bond on. It's taking the time to get to know people on a deeper level before you get straight into business. And I know there's a lot of type A people out there that are like, I don't have time for this, right? We don't have time for this. We got to get straight to business and start working on our goals. You might be wasting hours, weeks, years by not spending time. Maybe it's only going to be 5 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes. That time is so worth it. If you can help create that sense of community and help people feel connected, they're going to feel connected to that mission. They're going to feel connected to that goal and move quicker on that goal and actually be more effective because you're helping them meet these needs. The next one is the need for growth. So this is our need for self-expansion. So there are so many people out there that I know, myself included, actually. I think growth is actually one of my top needs. Growth is about improving yourself and learning and continuously wanting to expand yourself. These are people that are constantly reading and taking courses, and they're trying to improve themselves. And so when you're sharing an idea with someone whose top need is growth, you want to help them see the possibilities. You want to help them see the future version of themselves. You want to help them see how this change is going to impact their personal development or their career development. You help them connect those dots and see the growth in themselves and within the company. And then the last one is the need for contribution. So this is the need for wanting to give back to the world, wanting to contribute to a larger audience, more than, beyond yourself. You're trying to contribute and give back to people and to the community. So help people see how they can give back. What is it that they're doing or can do that can contribute back into the community, back into the world? All right. So if you want to take an assessment, go ahead over to influentialleadershipacademy.com. There's a free assessment you can take to find out what your top 2 needs are. So go ahead and take that assessment. Here are a couple things that I'm going to leave you with. Call to action. The first one is take some time today for reflection. Ask yourself, who do you want to influence? Why is it important for you to influence this person? How would this impact you professionally and personally? Go ahead and take that free assessment. Find out what your top 2 needs are. Share your results. You can send them to me. I'd love to hear from you. You can email me at hello@soniaksingh.com. Share with me what your top 2 needs are. Share with someone on your team what your top 2 needs are. Maybe you can help each other by recognizing what each other's needs are. And the last thing is, if you want to learn even more and go deeper into these topics, I invite you to join my mastermind. It's going live at the end of this month. So for anyone who wants to participate, I invite you to check it out. Here is a preview of what your journey will look like when you join this mastermind. We're going to go through 6 different workshops. There's many other things. We're going to have sprinting workshops. We're going to have training. There's going to be guest speakers. There's going to be masterminding where we actually put people in the hot seat and we work together to solve your problems. So I'm going to just leave this here, and you can go ahead and check it out on the website if you want to learn more. And for everyone who's participating today, you'll get a discount. JIT is the code that you want to use to get $200 off. And then last thing is, if there are any questions or if there's anything that you want to share, I would love to hear. What was your biggest takeaway from today's training? What topic do you want to learn more about? And what questions do you have?
That's great, Sonia. I just put the link. I suspect that now we've got multitaskers. They're listening to you, and yet they're over at your website looking to see if they can do the assessment. So somebody was just asking, how would we, figure out our top two, and then you gave them. And then I have confirmation from Shane that pretty much, yes, there's a lot of multitasking going on. So they are intrigued, and they're looking to see, what are my top two? Stacy said, truly enjoyed your perspective on the 6 human needs. Makes complete sense. Got logic. I can't find where the assessment is on the website exactly. Did anyone find it? So let's see. We gave them the link, and then they are going. Let me see if I have it up. And I think I got right to.
So when you go to the website, it's the second thing on there. It says the 6 drivers of all human behavior.
So let's see. 6 drivers. So if you scroll down a little bit, you're going to see a button for 6 drivers of all human behavior. So that ought to get you there. You have Giselle said, biggest takeaway, listen better. I love those stages of listening. I had a colleague that used to say the opposite of talking isn't listening, it's waiting to talk. And that was one of your levels. Mm-hmm. Let's see. And we've got Gina saying for her, it was the importance to engage emotions was her takeaway, that we forget that. And as you say, it's the biggest driver. Let's see. Another question was, is this the same for men and women?
But the 6 human needs?
Yeah.
Yes. It's the same for anyone, if you're, as long as you're a human being, we all have these 6 human needs. Everyone has these, but we all prioritize them differently. Some people, significance is so important. Other people, maybe it's not so important. I don't really need to be acknowledged. I'm good with just being in the background. Other people like to be in the forefront. And so, yes, these are all things that doesn't matter what gender you are, what sex you are. It doesn't really matter what your background is. We all have these needs, but they're all going to vary depending on who you are and what your circumstances are. And they can change over time too. So there are certain that we are naturally inclined towards, but depending on certain circumstances in your life, this could change. So for example, if you have a lot of changes happening in your life, if you have a lot of changes, all of a sudden certainty might become your top need because you're trying to stabilize your life, right? So you're like, no more change, right? We know this in the workplace. When we have so much change being thrown at us, all of a sudden we just want stability. We can't handle any more change, and so certainty is our top need, even though that may not be our top need normally, but it becomes our top need for that period of time.
Yeah. So Julie clarified, her question was, is it the same for men and women as far as influence being driven by emotion versus logic?
Yes, it is. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. We are all driven by emotions. We are all driven by emotions. So I think that might be a myth that we have heard, women, think with their emotions, men think with logic. The truth is we all use logic and emotions to drive our decisions, but emotions actually take up a majority of that driving. It's the majority of the reason why we do what we do. We may not want to admit it, right? We all want to think that we're using our logic, we're using our intelligence to make all of our decisions. But the truth is we don't. We know that we should be eating better. We know that we should be exercising every day, but do we? Right? Our need for comfort and significance and connection or all these other things supersede our logic, where we know we should be doing this, but we're still doing this other thing that's maybe not as good for us. because we're trying to meet a certain need.
I've got some more takeaways for you. Helen said, my biggest takeaway was that emotions are driving, not logic. So don't appeal to folks on logic alone. And I just think you've made that point so abundantly clear. Mary Beth said, this was great. I want to understand my and my team's top 2 human needs, which will help me determine how to work with each of them. And Chad said, the importance of emotion and how we need to tap into that to truly motivate behavior and decisions of people. That's what he got. Brian says, I enjoyed the building trust and connection tips, so clear and simple. Tamara said, my biggest takeaways are having the courage to tell my story when appropriate and the permission to show up as my authentic self all the time. I like that. That's a great takeaway. And Chad agreed to the working out thing of, we know to eat better. He said, yes, Peloton run's killing me versus eating the cookie. And let's see, biggest takeaways, powerful listening in leadership. And Tamara said, in her opinion, the combination of the two determine, and I'm thinking if that's logic and emotion, determine our narrative, verbal and nonverbal. Our narrative, both verbal and nonverbal, because obviously I think it's 80% of communication is non. Mm-hmm. And Julie said, I appreciate your calming personality and your style of speaking, Sonia. I got a lot out of the slides you shared. I'm glad it's being recorded for reference. Thank you. And Shane advises, always eat the cookie, by the way.
While you're on the treadmill.
While you're on the treadmill, man, just be doing both.
Another analogy that you might be useful is Robert Greene, the author Robert Greene actually uses this analogy, and I love it. If you think about the rider and the horse, the rider being your logic and the horse being your emotions, you need both to get to where you need to get to, right? So your logic should really be your guide, right? This is the guide. This is where I'm going. This is how the vision is created. But the emotions, that's what's going to give you speed. That's what's going to drive you forward. And so you need both. You can't really be successful with only just one or the other. You really need both.
Yeah. And Tracy's pointing out that analogy comes up in the book Switch too. They have an elephant and a rider, similar, the Heath brothers. Yeah, the rider and the elephant. Yeah, same idea, Sonia, that you're putting out there. You need both. That's great. And one more comment, that a cookie is equal to medicine.
Sometimes it is. Very good. All right.
Well done, Sonia. I so appreciate.
Well, thank you so much.
A few upcoming notes of next month's webinar. First off, that's with leadership coach Dorsey Sherman, how to leverage the role of emotions in lean coaching. Wow. So this is a great segue from what Sonia just brought to us. And let me just give you a little information about Dorsey's webinars. So that's, if you're looking to coach in a way that enhances the ability of others to learn, lean coaching is awfully largely focused on helping people use scientific thinking, data, and facts to experiment, hypothesize, make decisions, improve organizations. There's the logic that Sonia's been talking about. We often overlook the role of emotion in our ability to learn and improve. So join this 1-hour webinar where Dorsey will discuss the potency of positive emotion and offer guidance with specific questions, skills, and habits you can use to understand and leverage emotion with continuous improvement context. So that's a good one. And let me give you a link in case you guys want to sign up for that. So put that in there. And the other one is our current podcast. And that is with author Hugh Alley, that just sort of addressed this fact that a lot of us get promoted, like Sonia's been talking about today. You might have a title, but did you get trained to be good as a leader? And he talks about, both in his career, just experiencing toxic work cultures because people got promoted without being given the kinds of skills that Sonia's talking about today. And he wrote a book called Becoming the Supervisor to help folks with that. But that's a fascinating episode. And let me give you the link for that. So you guys can check it out if you want. Always, you can check out all podcasts and webinars on the site. Sonia's will be up by Monday. And there's more nice comments coming here, Sonia. So if you want to switch to the last slide, I'll see if there's other notes here. So you've got Chad says, thank you, Sonia. You are amazing. Helen says, thank you all. This was great. Have a great rest of your day. Rod said, very interesting, good info. Thank you so much. And Gina said, thank you, Sonia. Appreciate your presentation. So glad the recording is available. We'll share. So that's wonderful to hear. Anything else, Sonia? Any other questions for Sonia? Or any other thoughts from you, Sonia?
I just want to say thank you. This was really fun. Thank you, everyone who's participating and who's been here. I just want to thank you all for this awesome session.
It was fantastic. Thank you. And thanks, everybody. Come join us again next month. And thank you for your participation. This was a great conversation. I appreciate that you guys were fully present, listening, engaging, asking good questions, and being there. So yes, thanks for including us on your journey, Sonia. Fabulous timing. I have an interview soon. This was great. Thank you. Look forward to future events. Thank you, Teresa, Allison, and Alicia. Very empowering. Thank you for the information provided. Be really helpful. Wonderful. Thank you. So you've had an impact today, Sonia. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a month at the Just in Time Cafe. Bye, Sonia.
Bye-bye.